Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial with Python FA. Today we're going to be learning tuples, list, and a typical type of a list called a range. Alright, so a tuple can basically be represented using um, a bracket like this. So anything, so let's say I'm going to be saying name is equals to this, my name. So this is actually a form of a tuple, right? So name here is actually a tuple. So if you say type name, it's going to tell you it's a tuple. All right. So names, tuples are represented this way, and then a list is basically something like, okay, let me just say name list, my name. So once I say type name list, it says it's a list. All right. So what's the difference between these two? So a tuple is actually an immutable element. A list is actually a mutable element that is you can make changes to the object, and then a tuple is an immutable element because you can't make changes to its object. All right, so let's get straight to it. A tuple, a list, they can take in any form of data type, as long as it's defined. All right, so I can have another tuple called, for example, I can have name. Okay, for example, let me say, okay, name tuple. I can say it contains my 1 3 4 5 and the likes. So name tuple actually contains a string, and other entries are integers. So you can have floats, you can have integers, you can have as many as you want to have there. So the same thing for list. So you can have um, name list to my name, let's say 3.4, 5 6.5, 3 4. You can have as many as you want to have. So name list. All right, so that's that. All right, so now another thing I want to talk about is you can convert a list to a tuple. You can convert a tuple to a list. So for example, let's say for example, you have name to be a tuple, right? So we can say name mod. Name mod is actually lists name, right? So when we say what is name mod, it tells us, it returns to us in form of a list. The same thing for a tuple. All right, so for example, let's say we have a list here, name list, right? So we can say um, mod list is actually tuple name list. So once say mod list is what? My name. So it's converted the list to a tuple. So to confirm, you can actually do tuple. You can actually do type mod list, and it's going to tell you it's a tuple. You can also do type name mod, and it's going to tell you it's a list. All right, so before I move on, I want to just talk about some basic attributes of a list, right? All right, so for example, you can have a set of, you can, just as we did for string, whereby we have length. So a list is actually a type of an iterable actually. So let's say we can say what's the length of name list 2, right? So it's going to tell us name list 2 contains 6 valid entries. So that's another thing you can do with list and the likes. All right, so another thing I would love to just talk about, let me just talk about a typical type of a string of a list called range. All right, but before I go ahead and do that, let me just do some let me talk about list slicing. You know, just as we did relating to string slicing, you can have list slicing. So you know, we have name list 2 to be equals to this, so we can say slice 1. Slice is actually an inbuilt function, so So let me just say slice name is name list. Let me just say from 3 to 5. Just give me all elements from 3 to 5, and then assign them to slice name. So slice name says sorry, name list. It's supposed to be name list 2. So slice name list 2 3 5. So what is slice name? So it says 6.5 and then 3, that's 0 1 2 3. So 3 to 5, that's gonna be 3 4. So it's not gonna count 5. You get it? Alright, so if you want to have everything, you can have name list 2 from 5 to the last. Then you can also do name list 2. Name list is going to give you everything. Oh, this is from 5 to the last, that is 5 and whatever. That's why you have just 4. Alright, so if you can also do -1 name list 2 -1. So what is name list 2 -1? Name list 2 -1 is 4. So name list 2 -1 is also the same thing as name list 2 from 5 to the last. So you can also have name list 2 from let's say -4 to the last. So it gives you whole entries. So this -1 -2 -3 -4. So 3.4 till the last. Alright, so that's all. That's a bit of introduction. I want to talk about lists. Let me just quickly talk about range. Alright, so it's very important we talk about this. That's the reason why. So range is basically represented as an input. It's actually an input function. So with this, so it starts with a particular value 1, and then it stops at a particular value, let's say 10, and then you want to the third element is actually going to be the steps. Okay, like I want it to jump in step of 1, in step of 2, in step of 3. You can do that, and then yeah, it's gonna recognize it. Alright, but it's actually an iterable, so it works like an iterable. So let me just quickly do a basic introduction of this kind of a thing, so you can understand what it's actually doing. So let me just give you an introduction to what we call for loops. So you can say something like for I, in order for you to just know that it's an iterable. So we're going to explain what loops are later on, but let me just illustrate it here. So for I in range 1 to 20, or let me just say 1 to 10 in step of 2. So I want you to print I. So yeah, it's going to print 1, jump 2, print 3, jump 4, print 5, jump 6, print 7, jump 8, print 9. Alright, so that's just going to be a little bit about lists. So there are actually a lot of attributes of lists that I would have loved to explain here. Okay, but I'm going to do that in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.